So if you want to say have maternal aid for a woman in a rural village off in the hills somewhere, I mean, a Haitian paramedic can do it, but Western doctors can't. And it's pretty much the same in every area. Actually, there are other things that could be done on a national level. So one proposal, which came from the Center for Economic and Policy Research, very good economic research institute, is that the United States should buy up the entire Haitian rice crop at a decent price, above the market price. Well, that would be a tremendous subsidy to Haitian rice farmers. It would enable them to, it would also mean, and of course it means buy it up and give it to the Haitian people. It would have a major effect on the serious malnutrition. It would give a shot in the arm to domestic production. And of course, the other thing that ought to be done, not just for Haiti, but for the whole world, is for the Western countries, the United States and Europe, to put an end to the agricultural subsidies, which are destroying agriculture all over the world. Poor countries can't compete with highly subsidized Western agribusiness. Europe is even worse than the United States in this respect, and that ought to be totally gone. Haiti's debt ought to be completely eliminated. It's totally, it's called odious debt, has no legitimacy. And there are other steps that can be taken at a general policy-making level, but the main one is the one you talk about. Aid should go to the local functioning organizations, whether it's educational assistance, technical projects, agricultural development, community development, whatever it may be. And that's going to take a lot of pressure from the population here. And it should happen in France. As far as I know, nothing's going on in France, but it should.
The characterization of Aristide requesting help from France, I think one of the major reasons why there was this vindictive element was because he was quite strident, although eloquent, in that he was not requesting aid. He was actually discussing how they would not reach a level of basic moral development without accepting the fact that their wealth was based upon their poverty, and that they should provide to Haiti what is rightfully Haiti's. So I think that was one element.
Well, yeah, I read the same things you did, and it could be looked at that way, but I regarded that as polite. I thought it was right.
But I guess the emphasis on reparations for historical injustice versus aid is something that plays a factor in that.
Yeah, it's true, but he should, I thought it should even been stronger, but I thought it was a fair statement. Yeah. He should, France destroyed the country. France enriched itself by destroying the country. They imposed a burden on the country that prevented it from developing ever since its liberation, for the crime of liberation. Under those conditions, it seems to me pretty fair to ask for reparations.
Sure. I wanted to ask you, because of the work that you've done on intellectual culture and the media and that realm of policy, what is it that allows people like Clinton to go in front of the Congressional Committee and say things like, I'm going to have to live with this regret for the rest of my life every day? And also, another example is Jeffrey Sachs, who you've condemned in the harshest words for his work in Bolivia and in the Eastern Bloc, who became a quite vigorous and a pretty a fair advocate for Haiti during the time where the rest of the intellectual culture was demonizing it. So I wanted to ask you, what about those particular aspects? How does that relate to this doctrinal system that you discuss?
The fact that occasionally somebody does a decent thing doesn't tell you the doctrinal system isn't there. Clinton's statement was good. I'm glad he made it. As I think I mentioned, it's practically unique in imperial history. Try to find something like it. It was nowhere near what he should have said. It was just like a fraction of what he should have said. But it's good that he said it. There was a little commentary about it. If you do a media search, you won't find much. And I didn't see any commentary explaining what it meant and what the background was. In the case of Jeff Sachs, he's, he continues, he certainly has shifted his position very substantially from the time that he was calling for shock therapy in Russia, which led to utter catastrophe, practically destroyed the economy, harsh neoliberal programs in Bolivia, which had a horrible effect. And yeah, he's revised his positions and is doing good things, so praise him for it.
What lessons do you see Fanmi Lavalas and that 2 decades rather, of popular participation, what are the lessons that we can apply from that to the United States? What are the different scenarios and impediments that the United States has that perhaps are unique, that prevent us from creating a popular-based movement like Fanmi Lavalas? Thank you.
That's an important question. I mean, it's quite striking that we and other Western countries can't even approach, can't even dream about the level of democracy that they had in Haiti. I mean, that's pretty shocking. Now, here's one of the poorest countries in the world. We're talking the population that did organize to win that election are among the most repressed and impoverished in the world, and they managed to organize to enough to enter the electoral arena without any resources and to elect their own candidate. I mean, is it believable that we can't do the same? It's not the only case. I mean, the same thing happened in Bolivia a couple of years ago. I mean, the indigenous population, which is the most repressed in the continent, over some years, this is overcoming the effects of the policies that Jeff Sachs had helped impose. They began to take their fate into their own hands. It began well before the election. The election was in 2005, but in 2000 there were what were called the water wars in Bolivia. The World Bank and huge international corporations, Bechtel here, one from France, were trying to privatize water. And again, in an economic seminar, you can prove a theorem that says it's more efficient to privatize water. Footnote: most people can't afford it, so they don't drink. But can't have everything perfect. So they tried to privatize water. The mostly Indian population rejected it. They demonstrated, they protested, it became pretty violent. A lot of them were killed by the security forces. But they finally succeeded in tossing out the international corporations and the World Bank. That was done with international solidarity. That's also important. They carried the main action that they were carrying out in Cochabamba happened to be at the same time that there were protests here at the World Bank and in Washington, and they were coordinated. So thanks to the internet, they could be coordinated. There were also protests around the world at the home offices of the main corporations, and that combination of international solidarity and protest on the ground won a big victory. And then they went on from there. They went on to other issues, and finally they reached the point where they could enter the electoral arena, the majority of the population, and they won an election. In 2005, they elected someone from their own ranks, poor peasant. The issues were very real. Everybody knew what they were. Control over resources, problems of justice. It's a very multi-ethnic society, so complex questions of cultural rights. And the election was, they were well organized for the election, won it, elected their own person, someone from their own ranks, in fact. But that was just a moment in ongoing struggles. Then they go back and continue the other struggles. Well, that's functioning democracy. It's beyond anything we can conceive of here. It's and that's a problem about the United States and Europe, and the other wealthy industrial countries. the concept of democracy has just been so impoverished that we have to go to the poorest countries in the world to see what democracy means. And yeah, we can take lessons from that, lessons that we should apply. I mean, anything they've done, we can do 1,000 times more easily. So fine, let's do it. You know. To do it, you have to first know about it and draw the lessons.
Your response to the situation in Gaza now and the similarity between the suffering of the Palestinian people and the Haitian people, and both of them victims of racism.
There are similarities. I mentioned one. The Haitians and the Palestinians were both punished severely for the crime of voting the wrong way.